You can customize your UI using the options and mode boxes for the media panel, the viewer panel, and the editing panel. You can access many of the options and customization settings from the menu bar along the top, but all of them are available for each panel through its mode menu and its option menus. For example, on the media panel mode box, this allows me to dock my media panel either on the right side of my UI or return back to the default on the left side. You can also expand the media panel to full length to view a wide list of columns and information relative to the media. You can customize what columns will be displayed and which ones will be hidden. By right-clicking along the top black title bar, you'll have a flyout that lists all the possible columns that can be displayed. You can also control the order of the columns by just clicking on the name of that column and dragging to the left or the right. To return to the default layout, just disable the detailed options in the mode box. Another option is to change the height of the media panel. Accessing the mode box once again, I can enable and disable the tall option. With it disabled, the editing panel will expand and fill the entire bottom of the UI. With tall enabled, the media panel will take the full height of the UI either on the left or the right side, depending upon your setting. You can choose to hide the media panel altogether. By choosing hidden, you'll notice that the media panel is now gone. The mode box is still accessible. You can disable the hidden option, which then displays the media panel once again. The viewer panel, by default, is set up to be the source and sequence view. You can change this in several different ways. Expanding the mode box, you'll see the 4 different options, from thumbnails to player, source and sequence, and triptych player. And depending upon a setting in your user interface preferences, the layout selection overlay is available to you when you tap to the right side of the UI. Here you can change the layout also, or you can use the associated shortcut to invoke any one of these 4 layouts. Depending upon your viewer panel layout, you'll have different options available to you from the options flyout. In the source sequence view, you'll notice at the bottom I have 2 options. One reads Edit Overlays and one reads Edit Viewer Settings. Also notice that just above it there are several different options that are grayed out. These will only be available to you in a single player view, which we'll look at in just a second. If I choose Edit Overlays, the Player Option dialog box appears and the Overlays tab is the current selected tab. Here we can choose to have borders, center marks, grids, safe zones, letterbox, free guides, and working areas displayed inside of the players. Either enable the options such as the image border or access the different options from a flyout such as the center mark. You can save and load setups for the player option overlays. The Viewer Settings tab allows you to control several different aspects of your viewers, such things as image ratio, filtering. The following settings will affect the individually selected viewer by default. For example, currently I have the sequence view activated. You can tell by the white highlight around it. So any adjustment I make to something such as the exposure, you'll notice that is going to affect only that current selected viewer. Also notice that many of these viewing settings that I have inside this dialog box are available to me in each individual player, such as the exposure, the contrast, your video options, and your active mode. So you can adjust some of your viewer settings directly in your viewer. You can also determine what channels will be displayed inside of each individual viewer, and enable exclusive to look at the individual red, green, or blue. You have the image data option and your LUTs options also inside the viewer settings. If you enable apply all, this setting then will affect both the viewers. As I mentioned before, there were several options that were grayed out while looking at the source sequence view. Let me tap to the right side and switch to the player option, so we now only have one player. Now if I go back to the options for the viewer, you'll notice that those options that were grayed out are now available to me. They are Show Audio Desk, Show Overlays, Show Vector Scope, and Show Viewer Settings. If I enable the Show Audio Deck, it will now display the different audio deck controls you have available to you. Enabling Show Vector Scope, and now you have your different vector scope options as to how you want it displayed in your viewer. The same overlay and viewer settings that were available in the source sequence view are available to you here in the player. But when you enable them inside of a one-player view, you'll see that they are displayed to the right of the viewer. You can display your sequences as a timeline or a reel in the editing panel. Again, using the mode box, I can choose between the reel option or the timeline option.